Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you. I do appreciate it. Before I get too far, got to remind everybody, books are available at authorjerrymitchell.com or go to givegod90.com and follow the links from there. That is that advertisement out of the way. Be sure you push all the buttons you need to push, click all the things you need to click. You know the drill. All right. Why do we think the Bible's confusing? Is it? Nah, it's not confusing. It's not rocket science. You don't have to know how to, you don't have to know how to disassemble a nuclear device to read the Bible and understand it. It's not complicated. But there's a lot of reasons that people think it is. A lot of modern Christians want to start with the New Testament. That means they don't have the foundational understanding that comes from the beginning, right? They hear a word salvation, or they hear redemption. They hear, don't you want to go to heaven? Some other mantra that whatever denominations are using today. And they're never exposed to who our Creator is from his standpoint, his first words. And unfortunately, and I hate to say this, but it's true, a lot of Christian preachers or pastors, they're doing something they've learned, they've been trained from the schools they chose to attend, and it prevents them from having the ability to be most effective at representing the word. Putting it in its clearest context, because they were never trained to do it. I've talked to pastors, many pastors, who say they had a quarter semester of Old Testament, and that was it. So let me start with the majority reason. The people hear about Jesus, and they're told, you don't need to worry about that Old Testament stuff. That's outdated. We don't do those things anymore. That was for those people at that time. You've heard it, right? You might have said it. Really? Think about it. All right. Let's I love analogies. If you're going to start to learn how to count, are you going to start with number 5? Are you going to start with 1? Hopefully you're going to start with 1. If you're going to learn to count, if you don't start at 1, which is the foundation, you're going to be missing something. Some people may say, well, what about 0? Well, if you're going to learn to count and you have nothing to count, that's 0. But if you have something to count, hopefully you're going to start at 1. Get my point? If you're going to learn how to read, what letter are you going to start with in whatever alphabet you might be using? Okay. Letters have an order for a reason, and it's how it follows through the pattern of your language. This was so ingrained in me when I was young. It was common practice when I was young. Yes, you learned it when you're first starting out. You learn English from A to Z. And then once you have that down, now you learn it from Z to A. You get it forwards and backwards, because then you have a complete knowledge, a complete understanding of it. You know which letters follow which letters going forward, going backwards. So why would you begin any type of understanding of the Bible anywhere other than Genesis 1:1? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? Because so many people want to start with the New Testament, they're never exposed to the foundational Hebraic concepts of the Bible. Our Creator didn't offer mankind salvation right away. There wasn't any need for it until after Adam ate the fruit. Then there was the issues that went with that, right? Many, many Christians begin with Jesus going to heaven, and they neglect that God started the entire universe simply by speaking. They leave that part out because they want to get to the dessert. They want to get to the dessert table. They want to run to that soft serve ice cream at the buffet. And that brings me to this thought that I recently began to be able to express in a way that I hope makes sense. When we start in the New Testament and consider how and why we have the interpretations that we do, why we've been trained to think the way we think, what are we doing? What are we doing? We are attempting to superimpose Greek polytheistic philosophy onto a Hebraic concept. The Hebraic concept of who God is and why he does what he does is foundational in the Bible. Greek or Platonic philosophy attempts to reclassify that concept in a way that will never clearly articulate who our Creator is, because that Platonic philosophy allows each individual to determine who God is for themselves instead of learning who God is from his own words. Do I need to say that again? Let me say that again for the people in the back. Greek or Platonic philosophy attempts to reclassify that concept, the Hebraic concept, in a way that will never clearly articulate who our Creator is, because Platonic philosophy allows for each individual to determine on their own who God is instead of learning who he is from the words he gives us. More plainly said, we're guessing about who God is and refusing to hear it directly from him. Right? We're finding him guilty because we think he is, instead of letting him say, no, you're guilty, mankind, because I created you. You didn't create me. I created you. Then, of course, we get into one of my favorite aspects of this. Confusion comes from poor translation. Whatever language it's being translated into, you're going to lose it. And it leads to misinterpretation. Without having a good translation, it's impossible to understand what's being said. And then there's the traditions. We practice traditions. Traditions evolve. They evolve into something different than what they were originally for. Always. Always, always, always. If you happen to be one of those folks who thinks the Bible's confusing, go back to the beginning. Start with Genesis 1:1. And you don't have to get through it all at once. You really don't. Slow down. Read the words that are there from a reliable translation. Got to be reliable, not some off-the-wall thing. And I know all of the editors for all of the 100+ English translations there are today. Oh, ours is the best. Ours is the best. No, not always. Not always. None of them are perfect. I would suggest getting 2 or 3 and comparing them if you are wanting to be serious about this. One of the most difficult things you're going to run into is having your own biases. The things that you just know, right? I know this is what it's going to say. And so you try to force those words into where they don't belong. It's one of the hardest things any researcher doing anything will do. It is, they come up with a concept, they come up with a theory, Then you try to prove the theory. Well, sometimes, no matter how many times you experiment with something, your theory's wrong, right? It's just the way it works. Ask any scientist. They're going to tell you, yeah, I had this theory and I realized after 100 experiments that it wasn't right. Let the words speak to you. It's one of the most difficult things that we can do is not try to force our ideas, our biases, our things we have been taught that might not be correct onto those pages, into those words. You just kind of got to back off, say, admit, I could be wrong about this. Let the words speak to you. As Myra says often, just read the words. Just read the words. It does get easier as you continue. Trust me, it does. And you and you don't have to do it all at one time. Don't think, oh, I got to read this in a year. Oh, that's so long. How can I read this in a year? How can I read this in a month? How can I do this? I've been seriously studying for more than 20 years. I grew up with it, but I've been serious about it for more than 20 years now. And there's still things in passages that I see. It's like, I've read that over and over and over again. There's been some things I've been reading while I've been doing these podcasts and these videos. It's like, oh, that's what that means. It just comes to you. But there's always things you haven't seen before that you might somebody might say something, or you read it a certain way, and all of a sudden it begins to click. It begins to say, oh, that connects with this, that connects with that. Then it makes sense. It does take time, but it's time well spent. It is time well spent if you want that relationship with your Creator that so many claim they want. Why do you go to church? Oh, I want a deeper relationship with God. Really? Or do you just want to be entertained? Serious question. So, read what's there. Slow down. Take your time. It's not that difficult. You're not, this isn't a lesson plan. Okay? It might be homework. It's not a lesson plan. Slow down. Read what's there. You can do it. Trust me, you can do it. And I'll go ahead and stop so you can get started, unless, of course, you happen to be driving or flying an airplane or doing something that you can't. But when you're able, you can start. Are you there yet? Have you reached for that Bible yet? So until next time, I really hope you are blessed as you read what is there without forcing your ideas into things you just know this has got to be what it means. Let it teach you. Many blessings. Until next time, everyone.